College is a wild ride for young adults, and their mental health often suffers. This podcast addresses the inner battles many college students struggle with. You're listening to Normalize It Forward, where we have raw, unfiltered conversations about young people's biggest mental health problems, how to handle them, and how to achieve a more resilient mind. Time to get rid of those heavy burdens and focus more on self-love and care. Here is your host, Mark Lehman.
Welcome, everybody, to Normalize It Forward, the podcast where we openly talk about mental health and wellness. My name is Mark Lehman, and today I'm super excited to welcome in a fellow therapist, Jill Weinstein. How are you, Jill?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Thank you for being here. Jill is an LPC, mental health professional and clinical director based in Atlanta. She is a licensed professional counselor with over 20 years of experience working with adolescents and families on issues like anxiety, depression, eating disorders, and OCD. She co-founded and serves as a clinical director of Ignite, an adolescent mental health program at the Berman Center, emphasizing holistic, family-involved care and incorporating mindfulness, yoga, CBT, positive psychology, and experiential therapies. Awesome. Jill, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So Jill, let's jump in. You had shared with me offline just now. You have two kids and one is heading to school, and it made me think a little because my kids are a bit older. It made me think back to what was that like for me when my first went off to college, right? That's a big shift. And I think a lot of my listeners are probably in that boat or having been in that boat recently. Can I ask, like, what's that like for you?
It's it like hit me the other day. I think I love my husband, but there's a different love with your kids.
Of course.
It's like
Yeah.
this like physical love, and like to think about him, I don't think he will ever come back to Georgia. I think so there's like there's like a sadness because I know this phase of life is over because he's not going to live in my house again. So there's a sadness with that. And then there's like an excited part of me just to see him grow and where he's going to go. And he's such an amazing kid.
Yeah.
But then there's a sadness of like, I love being with him. I love being with my kids. So it's just all a bunch of emotions.
Oh my God. You're speaking right to me directly, Jill. My son finished school in May. And for everybody who needs a timeline here, we're taping this in July. The show will probably be shown several months out, but he's heading to law school.
Congratulations!
And thank you. We're here in Connecticut. He's going to St. Louis. It's sort of the same kind of vibe of like, all right, you know what? We know that they're going to do great things, right? And it's like that's fantastic, and we're excited for them. But there is a sadness, right? There's a sadness that goes with it. So I'm so pleased that you were able to communicate that, and we could share that a bit, right? We can comfort each other.
And it's like I told my kids, I'm like, I guess like I thanked them. I was like, thank you, because I would have never experienced this love without you, and thanked my husband for giving them to me because I would have never experienced
A great way of putting it.
love, like this love that's like a physical, like
It's amazing. It
yeah,
really is
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah. And look, as parents, kind of, it's our job, right? To be able to get them to this place and let them, spread their wings, right?
Yes.
So anyway, so I appreciate you sharing that. Let's jump in. Let's talk a little bit about mental health and wellness, because I think the integration of that and a lot of what we've been talking about already, as I'm sure you know, there's a real surge in adolescent mental health.
Yeah.
And, not in the right direction. And I think, particularly on college campuses. And so kind of integrating the two topics for a lot of parents, they're not understanding necessarily what, mental health and wellness is like for adolescents and teens as they're growing today. I guess I'm wondering, can I ask you like the huge question?
Yeah.
How would you describe the mental health and wellness of teens today?
Oh, I guess the first word that pops to mind is complicated.
Yeah, it is.
It's just everything feels more complicated. There's more layers to it. I think back to when I started the program about 7 years ago. Just those kids, those 7 years ago kids, versus to the kids who are joining my program now are very different. The kids now, again, are just more complicated, more levels of issues, more dysfunction within the family, where 7 years ago, it was still complicated, but it just didn't feel as there was so much more going on, like, it was just more straight anxiety or depression but now you have just so many more layers.
Yeah. Yeah. Complicated covers it. It really
Yeah,
does. It really
that's
does.
the first word that popped to mind, and
Yeah.
that's just what it feels like.
Yeah. I guess that's a good segue. Tell us about Ignite, the program.
Yes, thank you. So
Yeah.
I give you the long story of it,
Yeah.
but
Sure.
I'll be
Want to hear
quick.
it.
So 8 years ago, Eliza, Berman started the Berman Center, and it really came out of for her, she had a client who was living in sober living,
Okay.
and the client wanted to come home for the Jewish holidays, and the sober living was like, "No, you can't." So her parents brought her home anyway. And the client ended up overdosing and dying, found drugs
Mm.
online and overdosing and dying, which it didn't have to be like that, maybe if some things were more in place, and so Eliza also was working as a clinical director at another intensive outpatient treatment program and just saw some of the unethical things that were going on in the mental health world, and that could be a whole other podcast.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
Yeah. Sure
so
could.
she is very much like, "Jump in," she had to do something, so she started, the Mervyn Center,
Hmm.
an intensive outpatient treatment program for young adults, so for 18 and over. So she started that with seeing like and wanted a place where it's culturally competent. Anybody can come. It doesn't matter whoever you are more than welcome to come. So she created this space based upon Jewish values, but you don't have to be Jewish. It's all about community and connection because that's really what heals people. And Elise and I have worked together forever. Our families are best friends. And I was working at a private school in Atlanta, and so this was 6 years ago, and just saw the increase of anxiety and depression, and at that time, these amazing kids would leave school, and they would go to alternative schools, but they would never really get their clinical needs met. So at that point, I was like, I feel like we need to do something for adolescents because I could see again, each year when I was working in the school, the increase in anxiety and depression and kids leaving school. So she had the space, so I came to her, I was like, "Hey, you have the space," because her program at that point was only from 10 to 1. I'm like
Hmm.
and I was gonna create a program that was after school, because that's always the pushback sometimes working with families is after school, so they could still stay in school and would come to me from 4 to 7. So she had the space, so I was like, "Why don't we do this for kids?" And really just jumped into it and created a program after school for kids, always being mindful that they are in school, so we collaborate a lot with the school. Now we have a partial hospitalization program that has an amazing school program that we
Wow.
have for schools and
You
help
guys.
the kids stay on track so it's been really, really amazing to
That's
watch
unbelievable.
grow. Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
I mean, you're simplifying it, but I know better.
I
There's a lot that goes into this, right?
There
And
is a lot that
yeah.
goes into it,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's a crazy story for me to think about, like, my therapist will say to me, "Jill, you created the program that you needed as an adolescent," and
Right. Right.
really, I struggled growing up with trichotillomania, OCD, and, obviously, like, anxiety and depression goes with that, and I didn't realize, like, creating this program, how healing it would be for me and, like, my own inner child, and just really, like, to be able to give to these kids probably what I needed as a kid and create a healing space for them has been so it really has been my life purpose.
Yeah, that's amazing, I mean, you do some amazing things. I joke, sometimes with my families and say, my Christmas is in May because, my program is mostly college kids, and every May, I get these pictures of kids that graduated,
Yeah,
they're in their gown, their parents are smiling ear to ear, and those every single time, it's like, that was a kid who we didn't think would make it, and they did.
yeah, yeah,
And, and you just know, I mean, when you have a hand in that journey, it doesn't matter how big or how small, that their life has changed,
yeah,
So that's amazing. That's amazing. I'm thrilled for you guys. I'm thrilled that, there's so many adolescents being helped down in your area. It is a huge issue. And I think that for families that are sort of have their ear to the ground, they understand that. A lot of families, they'll get to college, for example, and
yeah.
not recognize how big of an issue. But you were commenting on it earlier, and I want to come back to it if I could for a minute. This world is moving so fast, too fast, right? And, for lots of us that have been to school years ago, we look at kids going to school now and go, wow, we know that's different. We know it's different. I mean, you've been through the journey just recently.
Yeah.
We know the intensity just to get into the school.
It's
right,
unbelievable, yeah.
is unbelievable. And then when you get there, it's maintaining that, right? Because there's lots of kids that don't end up staying.
Yeah.
So, for those parents, I guess I'm wondering, I mean, you've had lots of adolescents and their families come through your program. When you think about tips or suggestions or things that you find yourself saying to lots of families to help young people manage their daily stressors better, comes to mind.
Yeah, so especially kids who I've worked with, like, I think I don't wanna say they're at greater risk, but there's, any big transition when you have struggled with any, and you've been in a program for mental health. I always tell parents, like, be mindful of that because that's a big struggle. It's triggering, things could come up again. The benefit is they have all these skills now. So I think, what I tell parents is always just having an open, honest conversation with their kids about going to college, always having check ins with them virtually, see what's going on, and set up support at school, whether it's through the college counseling or having a therapist that they can go and see or virtually, like really setting up that support for them and really just checking in with them. And again, I think having those conversations are helpful if they need accommodations, like when it comes to schoolwork and things like that, helping them put those things in place. And most of all, the thing, I mean, the biggest thing is like once they're 18, I mean, I went to the pediatrician with my son. I have no say in anything.
Yeah, really changes.
He has
Yeah,
to like sign the form so I can talk to the pediatrician now.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
making sure that you have all of that in place. Because again, if your kid has had a history of struggling, not to say they're gonna struggle, it's just putting things in place. It's scaffolding, it's putting it in place in case things do go on, that you're there to help.
yeah. Being proactive. Great,
Yeah,
great
yeah, it's like
suggestion.
thinking
Yeah,
ahead. Yeah,
yeah.
it really is, and knowing that there's gonna be times that, like, literally just saw, Mel Robbins had, like, a quick little thing about, the first month of college and is gonna be hard, and you're gonna
Absolutely.
run, and you're gonna think it's not right for you, and all these feelings and emotions are gonna come up, and it's just knowing that and knowing, like, it doesn't feel because you don't know your schedule. When you're living at home, you know your daily where you get your coffee or you know where you
Pretty
study,
set.
you
Yeah,
know what
yeah.
friends and, like, you have to reestablish all of those normalcies again, and it takes time for that to feel normal and just I think having those conversations with kids, like, it is normal to feel this way.
Totally, totally. Can't tell you how many kids have said to me over the years, "It's been 13 years since I've made new friends."
Yeah,
Like, they haven't
yeah.
made new friends in
Yes! Yeah.
school, like, I wanna throw in too, just in case, 'cause I feel like, mamabearlegal.com, for families
Yes.
that are listening, great site, if you're interested in, getting what's called a FERPA, and I won't go into the details, but as you were mentioning before, Jill, when kids turn 18, schools will not talk to you about financial, academic, and health stuff, unless you have a FERPA in place. So mamabearlegal.com, go on there, talk to your student
I
about
need
it.
to do that, yes.
If they agree, it's a really nice, easy way because a lot of families, I'll just give one example. A lot of families are shocked when they're writing the check to the school and then there's an issue. It's like, okay, I'll just call the bursar. They call the bursar. They're like, oh, Miss Weinstein, nice to talk to you, but like, you're not the student. I can't talk to you. You're like,
Yeah.
but I pay the bill. They're like, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, no,
so,
it's so crazy.
little shifts and changes that happen for
Yeah,
us as
yeah,
parents and for them, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, appreciate you bringing that up, and I agree. I think, the open conversations with kids about, and a recognition that the first I would say first few months, first semester,
100%, and
is gonna
yeah,
be challenging. It's gonna be topsy-turvy. I equate it to, like, the learning curve at a part-time summer job, right? Like, you don't get everything down, like, in an hour. It takes you a little bit to really understand the job and everyone's names and all of that. So, this is on a larger scale, so it's gonna take kids and parents, I would say.
yeah.
Um
When I worked at a day school, I always like, new kids coming in, I would always think, like, to, like, Halloween, so they start school in August like, we start school
Mhm.
really early down here.
Early. Yep.
And it's crazy, like, some kids are already back in school. So,
Mhm.
August to, like, October, like, I would always remember around Halloween, most kids would find their sort of groove and their friends, and those who didn't, okay, that's when I would, like, as the school counselor, like, would try to step in and some do behind the scenes things to help connect them, and I
Yep.
would think it's probably the same with college, it's just takes some time, but then it's also on parents' end, like, knowing I know it's gonna be hard when he calls me crying or, like, calls me upset or something like and I know that I have to regulate my own emotions and
Absolutely.
just take some deep breaths and again be like, he will be okay. And here's the end, like, if it doesn't work out and if this isn't the school for him, he's not married to it, it's very easy to find another.
Not prison. It's not prison. You
Right,
can leave. Like,
exactly,
you can,
exactly, and
you
we'll
know,
figure it out, and
yeah.
that's just part of life, but I think
Absolutely.
the biggest thing as parents is knowing you're gonna get those calls, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be hard, and they're gonna feel left out, and they're gonna be frustrated, and it's like, how do we manage our emotions around those conversations? Because it's hard, like,
It
he
is. It is. But I like that, like what you said, you should err on the side of predicting they'll happen. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's typical. And I'll give you a piece of advice if I could, Jill.
Yes,
That a
because 'cause you've
good
gone
friend of
through it.
mine well, a good friend of mine gave me, and it really helped. And he just said, he said to me, he's a couple of older daughters, and he said, this is what they're supposed to do,
Yeah,
right? Like, this is what we've prepared for. This is kind of the big dinner, right? It's like we've prepared for this. And, as hard as it is to not have them in our house, as much as we miss them, it allows them to grow in a way. I can just say this. I've had students that go to school locally and stay home. There's nothing wrong with that. Commuting is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I've had A/B tests in front of me forever, my entire career. And I've watched kids go off to school before I did virtual work. They go off to school and I'd see them 3 months later. And they're different kids.
right.
They've grown and matured because they've taken care of themselves, A to Z. Like, I know it sounds silly, but like just doing your wash, just
Right,
bringing yourself
right.
to the dining hall, just making sure you're getting your work done, just, all of that. It grows a kid up. It
Yep,
really does. It
yeah.
really does. So, I'm excited for you and your family.
Thank you.
It's an awesome journey. Like I said, I've been through it, so
Well,
gonna go through
congratulations to
gonna
you
go
on
through it
law school,
again.
that's
Thank
exciting.
you. It is. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let's shoot over to a different topic, but kind of related. I guess I'm wondering, self-care is a buzz phrase that's used a lot. And I have my own definition of it, but I guess I'm curious. You treat adolescents. I'm sure that's a topic that comes up a lot. What does self-care mean to you?
I always think about and I always sort of explain self-care. It's doing something every single day and it doesn't have to be, an hour long, but something that just makes you feel like in awe or like, just, and it
Yeah.
could be like I just go outside and I look at the trees. I'm like, oh, that's a beautiful bird.
Mhm.
That feeling of awe that connects us to, like, something bigger than us,
Mhm.
and it can come in different ways. It can come in some people met it just it's just taking those few moments to find awe or joy.
I love that.
It's so easy to forget about and to, like, go through our days and we're so busy and we're on to a million things. But it's also then teaching your kids, I think, too, like that which will help them in college, taking those little moments of whether it's gratitude or, again, just that awe moment to, like,
Yeah.
ground yourself. So you're right, self-care is big, and I think when we talk about it, it feels like it has to be an hour, and we need to go to the spa, and we need to that kinda
Mm.
stuff. That part's great and amazing, and I really think it's about doing the little things. It's like why you brush your teeth. Like, that's
Right.
self-care.
Right.
If
It
we
is.
looked at, like, mental health self-care in a different way, just like why we brush our teeth 2 to 3 times a day,
Mhm.
it's the same thing. You're taking care
Yeah.
of your body.
It's a great point. I actually said that a lot to family, so it's funny you brought that up. I have to say, when you and I talked offline before this and you mentioned you were taking your kids out to lunch, you had that look on your face like, like it's so I think self-care comes in those forms where you're
Yeah.
just like, hey, I'm spending some time with people I enjoy, even if it's moments, right? And I love what you said. We're role modeling that for our kids.
Yeah.
And that really will teach kids in so many different ways, things like gratitude, things like appreciation and just slowing down. Like we're all like on this fast, super fast paced, like boom, boom, boom track.
Which you think about COVID did teach us because we couldn't go anywhere to slow down, but I don't think any of us have really held on to those
I
moments.
would agree. I
No,
would agree.
like and I know that I didn't really my kids slowed down, but, like, I still was working and doing virtual, but it was at least I was home. It was just different, and I not that I miss those times, but the slowness.
It was simpler. It was
It was
simpler. That's
it
for sure.
was, I
Yeah.
know, I'm all for it, like, I
Yeah.
just a simpler.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So this may be a can of worms, but I'm going to ask you about it anyway, because I think it just comes up so much with me and my families that I work with, and you mentioned COVID. I think, two huge things that have impact anxiety and depression in teens in the last, say, 5 to 8 years have been COVID and social media.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm wondering, in general, your experiences, your thoughts on the connection between social media and mental health?
Yeah, I think yeah, I definitely think there is a correlation, and I can't say I guess I sometimes push back when we're like, "It's all like, the poor mental health is because of this." I don't. I think there's great things that come out of social media. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's all in moderation. It's just like back in the day where it was like, "No red dye or no sugar," and, like, you're gonna have a sugar ha
Yeah,
like, nothing good your kids go to college, and then they're gonna sit and eat or they go to a friend's house and they eat sugar all the time.
totally.
I actually think it's teaching people how to have a healthy relationship with things, so social media just being one of them as well. So if you sit and scroll for hours and hours, you don't feel good, but I understand it's also a way to zone out, but again, it's just having these conversations with people about really what it is doing for your mental health and teaching them to have a healthy relationship. So if I'm going on sites that show like these super thin women and how am I feeling
Hmm.
about myself and really having talks about it. But then again, I always feel like as adults, like, what are we modeling to our kids? So
Good
if
point.
I'm getting home from work and I'm scrolling on my phone, they're gonna do the same thing, or if I sleep with my phone at night, they're gonna do the same thing,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
think it's just having those healthy conversations. Definitely, I think it plays into it, like, I definitely think social media plays into it, and, like, when I was growing up, like, if there was a party, I had no idea
Yeah.
there's a party, and again, so when there's a party and you're not invited to it, like, talking to your kids about, "Yeah, that feels really hard, and it feels really
Hmm.
bad," and
Hmm.
just validating what they're feeling.
You make a great point. I mean, I
Yeah.
think in many ways, I jokingly call them adult pacifiers, that as a baby, lots of parents will give their kids pacifiers to help them self soothe. And what I do with young adults is I watch some young adults misuse them, they're overusing them. And they're using them in ways that unfortunately impact their actual socialness. So, like you and I are sitting, we're talking face to face through virtual means. I can't tell you how many kids I role play with going to college at 18 because I know that having these kinds of conversations is really, really hard.
Yeah.
So it's almost like from our generation to theirs, the small talk of like, what's the weather like and how are things going and what's new? It's almost
Yeah.
like that doesn't happen much anymore.
It
You
doesn't.
you know?
Yeah.
So those connections, unfortunately, I see them being impacted, by social media,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know
yeah,
and, had a young person say to me earlier today, "I'm going on a social media cleanse." I'm like, "That's the first time I've heard that phrase, but that's
yeah,
great. That's great." And, I've done it myself, and I think that, if you're not sure individually how social media is impacting you, take a full 7 days off, you
and
know,
you see yeah,
and
and
you'll
then
see.
you
Yeah.
right, and then I think it's learning, like, then where's your boundary? Where's your line? Like, what is it, 'Cause it's also funny to see what you follow. Like, I get some great articles out of social media
Mhm. Oh,
where,
yeah.
like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
connect
Yep.
with people you haven't seen in forever, so that's the positive, but it's again, it's just the relationship, but it's
Yeah.
right, when you take a cleanse, I'm sure you really see
It's amazing,
yeah,
and you find also you didn't miss much. You didn't
no,
miss anything, actually. You didn't miss anything.
no, you probably read more.
Yeah, absolutely. Old school, pick up a book, right?
Exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
So, good stuff, good stuff. I think it's been awesome connecting with you, Jill. I appreciate the work you're doing,
Thank
and,
you, you too.
those thank you. Those down in Atlanta, look up, Jill and her program, because it sounds like you guys are doing some really awesome, awesome, awesome things with young adults. If I could put you on the spot real quick before we finish and ask that so normalize it forward, the way I created it was I wanted the conversation to keep continuing. And I've had some amazing conversations like I did with you today, as well as other individuals. And, what I usually will ask is for someone to nominate a friend, a coworker, a relative that you think would be helpful to interview next. Does anybody come to mind?
Oh, there's so many,
Too many.
oh, there's so like, one just popped in who a former client, but I can't break HIPAA, but I
Yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
tell
No,
her
it's
to
okay.
ask.
How about this? How about you think about it? I'll get information from you offline if
Okay,
there's information I can get from you, and we'll get them on the show as soon as possible. How's that?
okay,
Sound good?
that sounds great.
Awesome, awesome. And Jill, just to give you the final word, I guess I wanted to ask, is there any message you have for families? You're talking to lots of families that are listening to the show. Is there any message you have for families moms and dads that are struggling with their adolescents nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, one, you're not alone. I know it feels like you're so alone, and especially if your child's not on like the traditional track, you're not alone. So for parents to seek out supportive people in their community, because I think sometimes we struggle, alone in isolation, and you don't need to be in isolation. There's communities out there to connect to, and that again, that goes back to our program. It's all like connection is the opposite of depression.
Yeah.
It heals you tremendously. So find your support. And you're not alone. It's like riding the wave. It feels really hard, but you'll get through it and just have your people by you.
Yeah, I would just add one more thing to that, Jill, that not only are they not alone, if the parents don't believe us, Google it. The statistics show that the majority of kids nowadays are struggling with
Yeah.
mental health issues. So just when you think you are alone, Google actually has its positives. You can look it up and take a look, and it'll make you feel good that this isn't something, specific to your family. Lots of kids out there are struggling. When you get to a point where you open up, sometimes you're shoulder to shoulder at a soccer game, or, you're talking to a neighbor and you find out, wow, I had no idea they had those struggles going on in their house, because lots of people don't tell each other, but
No.
when you do, that connection is really amazing. So,
Yeah, it is.
yeah. So, Jill, thank you so much for your time, your energy, your thoughts, your expertise. It was awesome having you on
Thank
today.
you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care.
That's all for this episode of Normalize It Forward. May this conversation serve as a reminder that you are never alone in facing your mental health struggles. There are always people who can help. To dive even deeper into our journey of normalizing one of the biggest issues young people face, check out more episodes of the show at youareheard.com. It's UAREHEARD.com. Continue gaining access to the right tools, the best resources, and the most insightful advice to achieve positivity, mindfulness, and genuine happiness.